Okay, here we go. Okay, we're live. Let's do this. To a grand total of probably 0 people, as per usual. Alright, so, mag passives. This is the big thing. Because Fetch is a mod that exists, and because Vacuum is a mod that exists for both mowers and sentinels, it means that bags, the bullet jump vacuum is basically unnecessary. The only time it's really necessary is if your pet dies, then you still have access to a bullet jump vacuum. But otherwise it's actually...
But you also have greedy pull.
Yeah, and then there's greedy pull as well. Greedy pull is
what's the
also
point?
more or less useless as well. Like I already found greedy pull to be not all that great to use or not all that necessary to begin with. But now that Fetch and bullet jump vacuum exists, is even less reason for me to use it. So let's try and find a new thing. Let's try and find a new passive for mag. Here we go.
Increased vacuum range passive.
Increased vacuum range passive. I find that potentially to be a bit boring. I mean, like...
Well, it makes sense thematically.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I don't particularly like that idea. It just sounds... Again, it just sounds too boring. Besides, I think everyone is already, like, real happy with, what is it, the 11.5 meter range vacuum? Or is it like a little bit more than that? I can't remember.
You wanna wish forever.
But everybody's more or less happy with the 11.5 meter range vacuum. I don't see, like, doing that to be a thing that is, you know, useful. I think we need to... I think obviously coming up with something that's a little bit more dramatic would be better. So like, say for example, so let's have a look at like some of the, what other Warframes have at this particular point in time. We have Warframes like Excalibur, who are also starter Warframes. So Excalibur's passive is what, extra sword damage?
Yep.
Yep, extra sword damage.
10% damage and speed on sword weapons that aren't heavy blades for some reason.
Right. Yeah, because we don't have a heavy blade. We don't have a heavy blade frame yet. Give it time. Okay.
Which means the Odachi in Melee 3.0 might count, and I'm pretty hyped for that.
Alright, so... Okay. Alright, so the idea is that we could say, oh, let's just do the opposite of that and go for extra gun damage, except I'm pretty sure that already exists with Mesa, yes?
Yes, extra fire rate on dual pistols and faster reload on singles. So singles get higher sustained DPS and dual pistols get higher burst.
Okay, so that already exists on Mesa, so we can't do that. Now, one of the ideas that I came up with a while ago, and this is like a while ago, back when I did a mag rework video of my own, which wasn't really a rework video, it was just more like explaining some of the things I didn't like about mag before the Shrine of the Outer Lord update anyway. One of the ideas was to make it so that every time mag damages an enemy with an ability, she would receive a very low amount of energy back. So for example, you're in a room with about...
Nah, then just build her for power strength. I'd rather the passive be something flat and unaffected by any of her abilities that just has utility.
No, but that's the
like
idea.
all enemies damaged by her abilities have a chance to drop an energy orb that's flat.
So you're suggesting basically energy generator.
Yeah.
I think I would actually prefer something a little bit more reliable and a little bit more calculatable, if that makes any sense. As in, if I find myself in a room with 3 enemies, I could think, okay, maybe I will actually use Magnetize and let them shoot themselves. Because that little bit of ticking damage will actually, like, actively give me back way more energy than if I just straight up kill them. Does that make
That
sense?
works, I guess.
What's weird is that like all of the ideas that I've ever come up with in this regard, they would actually like actively make Mag way more difficult than she needs to be for a starter frame. Which begs the question whether or not she should still be a starter frame. She's actually way more nuanced and way more difficult to use than regular starter frames.
What if she temporarily jams enemy weapons whenever
already
she
does.
hits them with it? Yeah, but without an... Okay, what if she disarms enemies?
She already does. Magnetized discharge actually does that.
Hmm.
Let's see. Okay, so we could do an energy idea. We could try, what was the idea that you wrote in the Discord? Something to do with bullets having a bit more of an aim assist, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so technically speaking, if you use magnetized, bullets actually have an aim assist because you've magnetized onto their body. So at the very least, you have an aim
But it's a
assist
very
on
small aim assist passively.
oh, you're talking about... Oh, you mean your idea? You mean your idea, or do you mean magnetize? Because
My
magnetize...
idea.
Okay. I would call it to question whether or not that's too similar to the way void damage works, the void damage proc from operators.
Except who the hell uses void damage? Oh,
Hey man, we might be getting a full-on sentient thing soon, so we might see more reason to use void damage. You don't know. Let's see. Let's get out of here first. Alright, so I don't know. Okay, so we could try that. Let's see, what else could you do with magnetism? What is essentially a fundamental force in the universe? Like, let's try and think a little bit more.
jam signal,
What, as in like,
jam electronics.
you mean like how electric damage kind of does that? Electric
Well-
rocks?
Mag could get hacker-based passives that help in spy me.
Hmm.
It's just disabling laser barriers by her mere presence within the vicinity.
Whoa! What was that?
Turn Mag into a walking EMP for security.
One thing I do wonder is why Mag's abilities don't necessarily do magnetic damage or like proc magnetic procs. Like even
Well, her 4 does. Well, not procs, but damage, yeah.
nah, it doesn't proc. I would actually like it if Mag's abilities proc magnetic procs. Simply because it just means one more thing to throw on Division Overload.
Yeah, I like that. All of her abilities have a chance to inflict magnetic.
But that should be like a thing for all like elemental based warframes. So for example, Frost is able to throw cold procs on people just by freezing them first and foremost. Ember's capable of setting people on fire.
All of Frost abilities have a chance to freeze.
Ah, there we go.
All of Ember's abilities except Accelerant have a chance to
Well,
inflict heat.
Accelerate just makes the fires even better, so it's more or less the same. Like that's fine. Meanwhile, like Saren literally puts corrosive, toxin, and like viral procs on people, so you know that's a thing. But like Mag's abilities don't actually force any magnetic procs, which is surprising. I don't know. It might be a worthwhile time actually for DE to like actually follow through on all the other changes that I suggested for Mag.
Damage 2.0.
No, not just damage 3.0, but like all the other things. Or maybe instead we should focus on instead of focusing on energy, focus on shields. And make her like the ultimate shield based, well not ultimate, but like a real shield based WarFrame. I mean, I would say that, except of course the crush change happens, so that makes no sense. There's like literally no difference that needs to happen to her.
Damage to your shields increases her damage whenever the
Or what if she got shield rage? As a passive.
shield rage. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, what if Mag was like the only WarFrame that has shield rage?
There's the drone.
I actually think that's really good.
We can get to work.
Can turn the weakness of shields into a strength for Mag.
Yeah.
Starting
And then she would actually be a shield tank.
drone.
Sorry, a rage tank.
Those are the right people, far from here. And they're gonna try to wreck it rather than let us take it. Hold them off while I get this done.
Well, I think it should have been that way by default.
You mean for all shields?
Yeah, because once you get to a certain level, shields don't really do it.
Yeah, that's true. And then you would say like shield.
So base
rage
shield is kind of a dump stat. And there's like a weird archetype that we don't have yet.
Give me like 5
That only... Okay.
Sorry, what were you saying?
You have a weird archetype in Hydroid's base stats that haven't been visited again due to how
What, the 525 shield thing? Slightly more shield.
high base shields, low base health, high base armor.
Oh. Yeah, I never understood that. Like, what's up with that, huh? Hang on. How much health do you get when you put a full vitality on Hydra? You get like 740, right? Or is it even less?
Quite a lot. 500 times 400 is like 1,200.
500 times 400. That's not the math.
Yeah, like 400%, like 440% shields on base 525.
No. That's not how the math works, because Mag without vitality has 300 health. Mag with vitality is 740. It's base health at level 1.
Oh, plus 400%.
No. It's base health at level 1. So I just repeated myself. So hang on. I'm gonna bring up the wiki. Mag Prime at level 1. Her base shields are 100. Sorry, her base health is 100. And at level 30, she has 300 health. Does that make sense?
Can you repeat that?
So Mag at level 1 has 100 health. Or level 0. Mag unranked has 100 health. So the way vitality works is it's plus 440% health on that health. So even when you're at level 30 and you have 300 health, you only get plus 440% of your base unranked health, which is 100. So you have 440% of 100, which is 440. Therefore, 300 plus 440 means that Mag with a max rate vitality at level 30 and nothing else has 740 health. Something sounds wrong about that, but anyway, moving on. same logic with shields too. So because I think I probably start off with 150 shields as opposed to 100 shields.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Start off at 150 shields as opposed to 100 shields, so redirection, which is plus 440% of that, is why I have somewhere like 900 extra shields. Or along those lines.
So I think shields should do something, and it shouldn't be to keep you alive. It should fit a much more support, utility, or damage-based role.
Yeah. In a game like this, I would be inclined to agree. In a game like Heroes of the Storm, I'd be less inclined to agree because like shields already like fit a specific purpose in.
Do you want a Vectus Riven?
I already have a very good Vectus Riven. I don't need one. What is your one?
Alright. Minus recoil plus toxin plus impact.
Nah, I think I'll pass.
Yeah.
My one's oh bollocks! What is my one? Hang on, let me have a look. Okay, I'm literally gonna guard it by saying in the gate. Vectus. Oh crap. Vectus Critidex. Judging by the name, there's gonna be some sort of critical thing in there. Status chance, critical chance. That's right. It's a
Seems
very
pretty good.
useful hyper utility based thing that gives me the ability to surpass 100% critical chance, which makes it obviously really nice.
See what they can make of it.
Things that I like. Maybe I should set this to a high. Oops, too high. But I need to set the GPU particles to ludicrous. That is an absolute must. And I might need to set the anti-aliasing.
So if they insist on including Band-Aid mods, I have the ultimate Band-Aid.
Which is?
Being able to turn any weapon slot into a support type slot that lets you fit mods, unique mods that affect the rest of your kit if you forego that.
Oh, so for example, if you're going for Mesa, and
You can take off.
and you do this thing where you take off her sword.
Well, no, she already has a passive that does that for
She
her.
already has a
What you
passive
can
that does that, but then you can double
you take
dip.
you take off her primary.
No. Wouldn't you be able to double dip then?
No, I think they should count as weapons in case you want to go to sorties, because this is like
Oh. Wait, so you
Yeah.
mean like...
like
Sorry,
special, like think of it like instead of an actual melee weapon, you have like caster support gauntlets on your melee slot that doesn't really do any melee damage but supports your casting.
That sounds like something out of RuneScape, but okay.
And it could also potentially
Alright,
support
who
gunplay.
okay, who triggered these alarms? Hashtag real talk. Who did this? Who did this?
But the mods for each slot would be unique. And it would be considering what you're giving up. So like primary weapons, they have the most AoEs and the most punch through in range, right?
Right.
So in exchange for giving up your ranged damage and your ranged AoE and your ranged punch through, you're getting like a support mod slots that are geared towards benefiting the rest of your WarFrame pistol melee companion with AoEs and crowd control.
You're gonna find some people... Oops, where am I? You're going to find some people very much against that idea simply because they would rather have that tied to something like, say, armor. Decorative armor. So that you could...
Like
then
arcanes on armor.
Yeah, well, almost, except like moddable armor, almost. Which does sound pretty insane, but that would be the argument against something that you're saying.
Yeah, but at the same time, I like the idea that, like, say, Magecaster melee gauntlets have unique mods that you can put in that affect your gunplay and your casting and everything except melee, because you're giving up melee entirely.
That could be
When you
interesting.
switch to it, you do have functions, but they're not damage dealing functions, they're utility. For example, you can switch to the caster gauntlets, and you can channel something like with the primary fire or secondary fire button that helps with the rest of your casting kit, like increased efficiency or
So
range
to
while
some
you're
extent, what
channel.
operators do.
Yeah, to some extent what operators do. But a much more active system that's mostly for the WarFrame.
And accessible like before Second Dream.
hmm
That could be interesting.
It gives you a way to sort of double down on any focus on gameplay elements that you might have, because right now, focus schools do not do that entirely. They kind of just, lukewarm
They're
into
very
it.
support-based, eh? Except Mad
They're,
Rush.
and they're kind of lukewarm with it. Because, like, if you want to run Naramon, you're not giving up gunplay to be able to use Naramon.
I suppose not.
And if you're using Xenoric, you're not giving up melee or gunplay to be able to use the caster school. So this would be a way to, like, thematically make your builds have more diversity. And the way it would be set up is, with 4 mods dedicated, you barely, like, scratch the surface of what mods do directly on individual weapons, but the, like, passives and utility is just a good force multiplier on the rest of your kit. And it's sort of a way to, like, give your other things like an extra mod slot by collectively
you might be
dedicating
finding
mods.
yourself turning this game into a MOBA almost, and not just any MOBA, a League MOBA. As in, here's a shop, buy some items.
Nah.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just gonna make that observation. It just sounds like we're gonna find ourselves thinking, okay, what if I buy these boosts that have plus 50% movement speed, for example? That's a thing that probably doesn't really exist in League or whatever.
Yeah, but if there's gonna be, like, passive effects from these mods on the rest of your kit by foregoing, like, the appropriate weapons and using these mods, they would be really weak by comparison. Like, the way I imagine it would work is it would take, like, 3 mod slots to be just barely under the equivalent of 1 extra mod slot for whatever it is you're dedicating these stats to, passives to.
So at this point, the idea is
So
to
what
just
this-
do this as an extra, not as a staple.
Yeah. So, like, you know how you run into, like, weapons that just need, like, 1 extra mod slot?
Yeah.
Like, just 1 extra mod slot would be good? Well, you can, like, say you have, like, a good primary that just needs, like, 1 or 2 extra mod slots. 1 mod slot is, like, 3 to 4 slots on this foregone weapon slot. And you can have up to 2, like, rows of 4 for the 8 mod slots, and now you have, like, an extra mod slot on 1 or 2 things, or 2 mod slots on 1 thing. You can sprinkle out, like, forego the primary gunplay for everything else, little boosts from everything else. And I like this because this seems to be the direction WarFrame is going in anyway, with the whole set bonuses, like putting a mod slot on the WarFrame, a mod on the WarFrame that solely affects the companion, or like your pistol, like, the weapon switch mod, stuff like that. This seems to be the direction it's going in anyway. So why not just go all in with it? If you forego a pistol or a primary or a melee, you can give boons to the rest of your kit. Even foregoing a companion.
Ooh, foregoing a companion.
You'd be giving up vacuum in any form. Maybe there's a mod there that increases the innate tiny vacuum your WarFrame has by just a smidgen, but it's not going to be the...
anyway.
This also lets you like go all in with like just one thing. Like say you give up your primary, your melee, your companion, just to have a really good pistol play. Maces are gonna cream themselves over that.
Yeah, I feel like this idea is designed almost exclusively for maces.
No, not really. Excalibur too. And caster frames like Mag could stand to like give up maybe a melee or primary weapon of their choice to be able to just go a little bit deeper on survivability or extra casting.
I suppose it could be interesting to be golden arrow with just arrows, as opposed to
Yeah.
sit on Galacor as well. I don't know. Okay, that could be interesting. Okay, sure. But moving back to the premise of the original idea, which is Mag's passive. So one thing that we seem to like the idea of is maybe giving her shield rage, except you're more. Oh wow, they've pulled the army down here. Okay, so yeah, shield rage is a thing that we can consider. I'm surprised shield rage is not a thing for Harrow.
Considering the double overshield.
Yeah, considering the double overshield.
But you know, they could include it as an augment for his one.
Well, if they do that, I'm actually going to be rather pissed if they do that before they give shield rage to Mag, for example.
Watch it happen.
Just to piss me off.
They're either gonna do it for penance or they're gonna do it for.
Oh no, penance already
No,
has thing.
penance. An augment?
Penance, that's the 3 augment, right? That's 3,
No.
right?
2.
2.
The one where you smack yourself and turn your shield
Oh, the
into reloaded fire.
flagellation. Is that what
Yeah.
it's called? Yeah, flagellation. Oh, okay, never mind. Wait, so what's? Oh, that's durable. Because it's absolutely terrible. It's not actually durable at all.
It's probably one of the worst augments.
No, not really. In certain situations, it's absolutely gamebuster.
But the reason I'm suggesting this is that the extra mod slots for everything else except the weapon slot that you're foregoing is not quite the same thing as arcane slots, because arcanes have a chance to proc and these are consistent mods. And it's also not quite focused because you don't have to switch to the operator. And it's not quite extra mod slots because collectively they're having nuanced effects. And individually they're kind of... What do you think of that? It's like this niche that isn't in the game yet.
I don't know, something's, I don't know, just this, it's just something about it that doesn't sound right to me. Like, I don't think, I don't know, it doesn't sound like something that DD would ever want to, like, actively, sort of, promote. It's not the kind of gameplay that I think DD would actively seek to promote by
But
saying,
it seems like they're doing stuff already.
No, they're doing stuff that is similar to what you're talking about, yeah. But outside of Mesa, they haven't really gone out of the way to say, hey, why don't you use like less weapons? I mean,
Well, maybe they are weapons, just in terms of damage and status and crit, they're inferior. So you don't actually lose out the option entirely. And there actually would be mods to help with the damage there, but damage isn't their primary purpose, it's utility.
I like that the, what is the Lynx? Did I just kill a Lynx or did I kill a Jackal? I can't actually tell. But either way, I like that the Lynx tried to use his machine gun whilst in a mag bubble. Feels good. Okay, let's think of a couple of other ideas for Mag.
If not shield rage, how about increase casting speed as they take shield damage?
That would be useful before the Shrine of the Eidolon update, but after the Shrine of the Eidolon update, I don't think that's entirely necessary.
This isn't a whole team.
Like, to the point where if you actually drop natural rage, if you drop natural talent on your mag and you use crush, the animation is actually faster than the special effects. As in, it's actually too fast.
They might patch that.
I don't think they'll bother because nobody would ever use natural talent on mag anymore. At least I don't think anyone would because it's hilariously unnecessary. The only reason why you used natural talent on mag beforehand was simply because crush took 5 seconds. Now it's like 2 seconds, so that's fine.
The caster glove idea could also be a way to like move augments onto the melee weapon, like Warframe augments into the melee weapon.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That could be. But at that point, I would actually go further and just like make it multiple armor pieces, so that like as long as you have some armor pieces, you can mod them with your ideas. But then at the same time, some people prefer to not use armor pieces for whatever aesthetic reason.
Yeah, I think the gameplay mod should be stuck only to the weapon system, as there's already a precedent for mods from one item interacting with another.
Oh,
so
yeah, with like vigilante, etc.
Yeah.
Is it vigilante?
Yeah, vigilante, hunter, etc., etc. The
Oh,
only
no, I
one,
mean
the only one that
specifically
doesn't do that is gladiator.
Gladiator?
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah, it's pure melee.
So imagine having like completely modular, fashionable like stuff you can have on the primary, secondary, melee, and companion slot, but you could make it such that it accepts like mods from the Warframe primaries and other things that isn't in that slot, at the cost of having something that does something at all.
But would you find yourself in a position where you're wearing, say, caster gloves that you're using Oberon, and then you decide to jump onto Avara, but you have Oberon-related stuff on it? Is that the idea?
No.
I don't know, that sounds like bad game design.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to like mix and match as easily. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Augments would have to be the exception, the only thing you can't put on there.
Yeah, well, I get the idea with augments. Like, if the augment is good enough, it should like, or at least augments should be good enough to. Oh bollocks! How did I die so quickly?
Well, it does solve the augment slot problem because it's not really an augment slot; it's just an extra Warframe slot collectively between 3 mods. It's fine like that, actually.
I don't know, but like, augments should be good enough where you would be willing to sacrifice a mod slot. So,
Yeah,
like, there should be, like,
but they don't follow the design philosophy all the time.
No, they don't. See Greedy Paul.
Would be cool if Greedy Pull also increased the value of the things you're pulling in with Pull, like doubling the effects of energy orbs, health orbs.
Yeah.
If it did that, then it really would be a Greedy Pull.
Oh, I see what you mean. That could actually be pretty good. The only thing is that it has to like effectively double the amount of things that everyone gets. Otherwise, it would be the most insane, like, selfish farming tool ever.
Well, yeah, it's called Greedy Pull. It's not called the Selfish Pull.
Yeah.
What are you expecting? If it benefited everybody, it'd be called Charity Pull.
If it benefited everyone, it'd be called Desecrate. Synth Fiber. No, that's not new. Health orbs increase.
Besides, Greedy Pull only affects client side. It doesn't affect all the pickups for everybody. They made that change.
Oh, that's
People were using it to AFK for him.
Oh, so that's an active thing that they sorted out?
Yeah.
There's work.
Balls,
If you pull
balls.
an energy orb from a dead enemy, the pulled orb is only on your end. Kind of like how a vacuum is only on your end too.
Hanging by a thread here.
Ah, well that makes sense. You don't want vacuums to be like competing with each other. That'd be hilarious.
It used to not be that way for greedy pull, and you can AFK farm in a squad with just a greedy pull mag pulling energy orbs from a dead squad onto your. So they got rid of that. So it's already only for you.
Yeah, but since fetch and stuff exists, there's really
Yeah, but greedy pull doubling the value of it is basically a scavenger mod for everything, including orbs and health orbs.
ah,
If while we're at it, we can make it scale with power strength and instead not be a flat double, but instead be like a percentage that can be increased with power. Kind of like Desecrate. Except it's not really re-rolling the drop table, but it's just doubling what's already out. Doesn't affect mods, obviously. Just pickups that aren't mods. And blueprints. Actually, sure, why not? Let's make it blueprints too, and mods. Doubling the mod drops. Why not? It's the only thing in the game that would do that. And it's tied to a cast. And it's called greedy, so you're making more money out of it. Turn mag into a farm frame. That'd be cool.
could be useful.
It's not like WarFrame will be multiplayer forever. Eventually, there will be no more new content. The game will be entirely supported by the players. This is like some super distant future, but it is an inevitability.
Oh, unless DE becomes like a global conglomerate and WarFrame stops being a game and starts being life.
Yeah, but I don't think they're gonna live that long. They keep drinking everything from bagged milk and bagged things.
That and they have just that they did just legalize marijuana, so
I don't think they're gonna live long enough to be transhumans. I don't think
they don't-
anyone
They
is
don't
right.
have to. They just have to have. That's why we reproduce. The operators. Are
Yeah, but I don't
children,
think
remember?
I don't think DE is gonna have offspring that are super eager to continue Warframe. It might be cool at first, but they wouldn't have the same work ethic.
No, so then you just no, but that's just standard hiring practices.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
I still don't think it'll last forever. Someone's gonna mess it up if they try to keep it going forever on devs. At some point it has to be immortalized.
Okay, back.
Welcome back.
Alright, let's see, what else is there? Oh, we have an Excalibur Umbra. Oh, sorry, Excalibur Prime. Cool beats. Okay, so... what other things could Mag get as a passive? I only had one idea, really.
What's that?
The energy idea. Where as long as she does damage with her abilities, she gets energy back. That was just the idea. Alright, let's have a look at some of the other passives that exist in the game. Does this have a... Ooh, we do have a list. Fascinating. Okay. So... a lot of warframes that have... that are element based have relative element based passives. For example, Ash is a slash-based Warframe. A lot of his abilities do slash damage, so naturally he has Hemorrhage. Any slash procs inflicted by Ash do more damage and last longer.
Okay.
So, what can we do? What can we do with magnetic damage? What can we do with magnetic damage that Magnetize doesn't already do itself? That's the big question, I think.
Oh, you know what we don't have?
What?
A way to hybridize the effects of some frame onto a
Hybridize?
single frame.
How do you
Like,
mean?
imagine having Mirage's like decoy effect, but like less than level 1, just passively going on.
Mirage's decoy effect?
Like Hall of Mirrors. Increased evasion. Aggro being drawn away from it.
Oh, yeah?
I'd really like to be able to have a Chimera Warframe.
I think
Like
we'll
Warframes that you can adjust the powers of to be similar, or amalgams of other Warframes.
What, you mean like modular Warframes?
Yeah, but not quite, because that wouldn't work out.
Oh, I don't know, my dude. They might. I mean, we're probably gonna end up like think about it, we're probably gonna end up with a third. Oh, hang on, I'll be right back.
Oh, I know a good passive for Matt. Hey,
Okay, I'm back.
welcome back.
Uh,
I came up with a better passive for Mag.
Oh yeah? What is it?
Signal Jam prevents hive-minded units from communicating and alerting.
Lol. Hive-minded units. Define that.
Corpus Robotics, corrupted and infested. Whenever you attack any of those units, the rest of the units in that room become alerted.
Oh yeah?
This is only prevented if you kill them with stealth. If you damage any of them, even if it's a silence damage effect, and they get alerted, the whole room gets alerted. And sometimes rooms over.
Big question. Banshee. Is this not very
No,
similar to how
Banshee still doesn't. No, Banshee doesn't bypass that. Banshee does keep stealth. It doesn't alert the enemy to her location. But the entire room will become alerted to her presence, as in she exists and there is a threat, if she doesn't one-hit kill the enemy in one go.
Oh, okay.
So the way Hive Mind works is the enemies don't need to see each other getting hurt to be alerted of like one of their own getting hurt. For things like Corpus and Grenier, you could hit someone like right next to them, and if they don't look at the corpse, they won't realize something happened.
They have no
And if they survive, the unit that got hit has to physically alert the rest of the room, as in firing their weapon for the rest of the room to take notice of you. This is not the case with Corrupted, Infested, and Corpus Robotics. If you alert one of them, all of them in the room get alerted.
And not just all of them in the room, all of them, their dogs, their parents, their brothers and sisters, they'll be alerted too.
Yeah.
Right.
The way it works is the room over gets a tier of alert below the one you're in. So if you fully alert all the enemies in the room that you are currently in, the enemies in the adjacent rooms will be partially alerted.
Okay, so here's the thing.
This is for Hive Mind.
Right, so but here's the thing. This would be wait, hold on.
In other words, even if you kill everything in the current room,
real quick, trending fandom articles. Why Fantastic Beasts is better than Harry Potter? Wow, that's triggering. Moving on. But here's the thing. So, like Banshee's passive, this would actually not be useful in like defense, interception, and survival missions. Yeah.
it would not be. It would only be useful for stealth. However, it would also be mid-combat against those units, because they will also focus fire enemies based on their threat level in unison.
Sorry.
That's what happens.
Based on their threat level.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so if one robotic is focusing on one enemy, other robotics or hive-minded units have a higher chance of also focusing on that enemy, because they have equal alertness levels to that enemy. They're hive-minded. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It's why almost all of the infested attack the defense objective, because there's so many of them attacking the defense objective. They'll just Zerg rush it. And only some of them sometimes look at you. Meanwhile, against Grenier and Corpus, they individually will target you.
Right.
Stuff like that. It's like little stuff, but
I feel like
the ability to be like completely immune to hive mind has like very interesting ramifications.
I feel like this might be too nuanced an idea, but I could see where it'd be useful. I could see it potentially being a thing.
We should also move it forward as to make Mag scramble laser barriers as well. In addition to that, Mag also gets a tier lower on hacking, because that's what the Intruder mod does. It lowers the difficulty of hacking stuff by 1 tier. So instead of a full grid of Corpus ciphers, you just get like most of the grid, had being a requirement. So I would make Mag a CC caster's stealth frame in the same vein as Banshee.
Wait, wait, hold on. Intruder is an excellent mod that decreases the difficulty of. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay, I've never used it before. Real talk.
You have it because that is a thing.
I've
The layout of a cipher is based on difficulty, and the difficulty is an actual variable that you can manipulate with the mod.
Oh, okay.
So you can take that into a sortie, and it'll lower the difficulty of the ciphers, and it's the only way to do.
Interesting.
Just figured I FYI that. So we could
Oh.
give Mag a passive that's just a universal signal scrambler in an area, such that enemies and electronics within that area basically get completely messed up. They can't communicate with what's around it. This gives her increased ease of hacking, having to disregard laser barriers more, being able to disregard laser barriers more,
Do you think
and a little bit of extra combat advantage against high.
Right. Do you think this is something that new players would ever be able to take full advantage of, like actively? Because remember, seeing
The laser barrier part and hacking part, yeah, those parts work just fine for new players.
Oh, I need to Vegator. Seeing that at the current moment, Mag is still a starter frame for various reasons.
And half of the passive works really well for new players.
I suppose. I mean, yeah, it would be a passive that they would probably notice, but not actively take advantage of. It's just something that just happens.
Yep.
I guess.
And you know what else? This ties into my buff for magnetic procs. Magnetic procs don't only just deplete shields. Magnetic procs also sever that unit's connection to a high. In other words, you can use magnetic on stealth infested missions if you have a 100% status.
Okay.
Or corrupted missions if you have 100% status.
Okay, interesting.
That is my suggestion for Mag.
Alright, so it looks like we have two very viable options. The sort of signal jamming option and the shield rage option.
And I think shield rage should just be universal, personally.
I reckon shield rage should be universal.
It needs something to differentiate it from health and armor.
I mean,
And it doesn't have to be damage reduction, it just has to be something.
At the moment, the way that shields are different to health is that shields recharge. Health does not necessarily recharge. That's why
Have fun with that when they get blown off instantly at any level above 30.
I know. Well, technically, if you're fighting against something that does innate radiation damage, you have 75%, let me check, shields.
75% damage reduction, yes,
yeah,
you know.
75% damage reduction.
Except the only thing with innate radiation damage is laser barriers. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make a point. Yeah, so technically, but maybe, I don't know, maybe at some point they'll start introducing more enemies that do radiation damage. I mean, if you think about it, they did introduce a bunch of enemies that started doing magnetic damage.
But yeah, you understand what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Prevents the hive mind. This could also extend to warframes. It can cut links between support skills.
Hold on. 75% damage reduction, that means... How does damage reduction work again? X over Y, where Y is X plus 300. That equals 75%. That equals 0.75. So X is the amount of armor. So it's a certain amount of armor over a certain amount of armor plus 300. Okay, you basically have 900 armor on shields if you're fighting against radiation damage, specifically.
Sleep.
Okay, yeah.
This also means that magnetic damage would actually have a use now against infested alongside gas. and against Corpus Robotics alongside Gas. Meaning the only faction it does poorly against is the Green. That makes sense. I like it a lot.
Don't bother me now. Talk to your supervisor. Oh, yeah, well, get over here. Contract. Interested?
Sorry, you were saying?
So that would mean, with those effects, the only faction that Magnetic would be pretty bad against is the Grenier.
As is right now.
Bother. We gonna do
Magnetic
this?
damage is absolutely useless against Gridia. Sorry?
And Infested.
Yeah, and infested. Except infested, infested don't
And to a lesser
activate
extent, the Void.
There are.
It's
there are
much
corrupted-
better to use.
There are corrupted corpus enemies.
Yes, but there's only one Corpus enemy that takes more damage from Magnetic. And
Who's
the
that?
rest, the deadliest, the Moa.
Corrupted crewmen.
Yes, but only their shields take the extra damage. It is completely neutral against their flesh.
It's also completely neutral against robotic. It's the same logic.
No, it's not. It deals more damage against robotic, doesn't it? Yeah.
No, you're thinking about electric damage.
Then we
magnetic
have an
damage-
actual problem.
Magnetic damage does negative 50% against alloy armor. That's why you never use a magnetic damage against something like a bombard. It does 75% versus shield and proto shield. Proto shield being the special shield for people like Corpus Techs, Wardens, Sniper Crewmen, Nullies, and Corrupted Nullies.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I still think Magnetic should mess with Hive Mind stuff. Because I'm pretty sure Sentients are also going to have a Hive Mind and they're weak to.
They're weak to Void.
And Magnetic and Radiation.
Sentience? Oh, because they have a
Yep.
shield.
But I'm pretty sure they're also going to have a Hive Mind in addition to Shield.
Okay, so let's take, for example, your battle list. Your battle list has no shields. Your battle list has robotic health and ferrite armor. Let's look at your conquest. So your conquest has also robotic health, ferrite armor. Mimics have robotic health, ferrite armor.
I could have sworn they had shields.
Only Terry's, Gary's, and Harry's have him. Or as we as Australians probably maybe sort of not really call them, Tez's, Gaz's, and Haz's.
If it breathes, it's a guzzard.
Sorry?
If it breathes, it's a guzzard.
He's a Guzzer.
I don't know. I didn't quite catch what you said.
Tezza, Gaza, and Hazza. Terralist, Ganchulist, Hydralist. Hydralist.
If it breathes, it's a hazard.
We're all Hazzers.
You're a wizard, Hazard.
You're a wizard, Hazza. I'm a what, mate? Alright, I am literally 1 day away from getting old, mate. Get ready for the hype. In the meantime,
I am 2 days away, just about. Maybe 3.
you know what I find is the fastest way to get stand-in?
Mining.
Bonds, actually. Bonds. I don't know why.
If you have money.
Yeah, if I have money and exceptional amount of resources, which I do. But like, oh, rotoblade. Okay, how do I get rotoblades? I think that's super easy to get. Oh, eyes. Okay, we can just do that. But like a lot of these are like super cheap. For example, 5 training, 10 shelters. That's like... Oh man, let me have a look. Okay, 5 training, 10 shelters. That comes out... Oh, I actually have to do them. Oh no, I have to do the mental math. 5, 10, 2,000, 2,005. So that's 2,500 standing, which is about a tenth of my daily limit for just a bunch of salvage, which is, you know, dirt cheap. And then dissipator coils. Those are super cheap too, aren't they? Dissipator coils, tinks. Ah! Super cheap. Some Gorgaraka spores will net me training in shelters, which is probably around about 4,000 standing. And then here's the... Oh, this one's a little bit more expensive if you don't have certain arcanes. 3,500 polymer bundle for 10 medical death bombs, which is 4,000 standing. I mean, I don't know about you, but these are pretty damn fast ways of getting standing. Alright, have we basically concluded the discussion on Mag's passive? I think we have. Is there anything else you want to add to that, Azim?